Okay, so we need a few things to make this pair of earrings today. We need some 11-aught seed beads, 8-aught seed beads, some wire frames that are about a 25 millimeter. I have some check glass flower beads. I have some Swarovski crystal beads. I have some ear wires, some head pins, some eye pins, some either 6 or 8 pound fire line, and some size 10 or 12 beading needles. And then you're also going to need a pair of wire cutters and a pair of round nose pliers to assemble these earrings. Let's jump into the project. If you want to buy the material kits, it's available at originalsbeadsandgems.com. Okay, so I started by cutting 4 feet of my fire line, and I'm going to also add the needle to one end. The other end without the needle, we're going to tie onto our beading hoop. So I'm just making a simple knot around the hoop. You want to make sure that you do leave a tail because you're going to have to sew that in later. So don't leave too small of a tail. So I'd say between 4 and 6 inches. And I'm just knotting that a few times around my frame. Alright, so now for this project, we are going to be doing a brick stitch around the frame. So whenever you start a brick stitch, you're going to start with 2 beads. Now it doesn't really matter what 2 colors you start with. I don't do a pattern for these ones, but if you want to, you definitely can. And we're going to pull those 2 beads all the way down to our frame. Alright, so now what we need to do is we're going to take our needle into the frame. Okay. And then back up the orange bead. But we want to fold the orange bead kind of down alongside like that, so that when we go up the orange bead, and pull the thread all the way through, the 2 beads will sit side by side on the frame like that. Sometimes this first bead pops up a little bit, so what you can do is you can actually take the thread coming out of the orange bead, go through the purple, in the loop, and then back up the purple. And that will kind of tack down that first bead if he's trying to pop up funny. All right. And now I'm going to go back down through the orange one, into the loop, and then back up the orange one so that I'm ready to add my next bead. Okay. So now I'm going to add my next bead. So I'm going to pick up a bead. You only add 2 beads when you first start your brick stitch. So I'm going to hold this, I'm going to pull it all the way through the loop, but I'm going to keep the bead above the loop. And now I'm going to sew up the bead. This is going to create a thread loop around my frame. Okay, so again, I'm going to add 1 bead. I'm going to go into the loop, keeping my finger there so that my bead doesn't come through the loop with me. I want him on the top of the loop. And then I'm going to take my needle and go up the bead. So it should look like this. All right. I'm going to continue adding beads all the way around. We want a total of 26 beads around for this pattern. So let me go ahead and add the rest of the beads for the base row. Okay, so I went ahead and added beads all the way around. I actually ended up adding 27 beads, so one side is going to be 1 bead longer than the other, but it fills the frame in better with that 27th bead. So now I need to come down the side of my bead work by 8 beads, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through the bead and then up a bead. I'm just stitching my way down the beadwork. Down the bead, up a bead, down the bead, up a bead. So that's my 7th. Now I'm coming down this bead. Now I need to come up the bead, be coming up out of the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the hoop to the other side and then up the bead. And this creates a loop around my beadwork frame so it doesn't pop out. All right, now I'm in position to start adding my loops of seed beads. So for that, we are going to switch from the 8-aught to the 11-aught. So here's my 11-aught seed beads. And now I'm going to add 10. Okay, so I have 10 seed beads. I'm going to take my frame here and I'm going to skip the next 2 beads. So this is the one that it's coming out of. Skip 1, skip 2, and I'm going to come down the yellow one. Okay. And I'm going to pull, and that's going to create my little loop. Now what I need to do is I'm going to come up the next bead, which is this pink one here. Now I'm going to add 15 seed beads. Okay, so I have 15 seed beads, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards to this bead right there. So this is where the last group was coming out of. I'm coming out through this one. So again, I'm kind of going backwards, but I'm skipping 1, 2 beads and coming out that third one. So we're going to pull it to make a loop. Now this is a little bit bigger loop. Now we need to come up the next one. So that's going to be the purple one in our row. And pull it up here. Now we're going to add 15 again. Okay, so we have 15 beads, and now what we're going to do is we are going to skip 2. So there's 1, 2 in our base row, and we're going to come down the third one here and pull it all the way through. All right, so now we're going to go to the next bead over and come up here. Now we're going to increase. So we're going to do 20 beads for the next loop. Okay, so I have my 20 beads. Now what I'm going to do, this part is a little tricky, but we're skipping 1, skipping 2, and we're going to go through the third one there. So there's already a loop coming out of there, but you just need to remember that you're skipping 2 beads and you're going through the third. So we're going to pull that tight there, and now we're going to come up the next one over. Don't go through any of the 11s, just through the 8. That's in that middle row. Okay, pull that there, and we are going to do another row of 20. Okay, so I have my 20 seed beads, and now I'm going to skip 2 beads, so 1, 2, and I'm going to come through this bead here, pull that tight, and now I'm going to come up through the next bead, and we're going to do one more row of 20. So it goes 10, 15, 15, 20, 20, 20, 15, 15, and 10. So let me go ahead and add 20. Okay, so I have my 20, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip 1, skip 2, go through the third one. Now again, there is already some beads coming out of that one. That's okay, they're going to overlap a little bit. And now I'm going to have to come up the next one. All right, make sure you don't grab any 11s. Alrighty, and now I need to add a, okay, so I've added 15 of my seed beads. I'm going to skip 1, skip 2, and come down the third one and pull that tight. Now I need to jump 1 over, and I need to add 15 more seed beads. Alright, so I have my 15 seed beads. I'm skipping 1, skipping 2, and I'm coming through the third one there. Pull that all the way down, and then I need to come 1 bead over, like so, and now I'm going to add 10. Okay, so I have my 10 seed beads. I'm coming out here, I'm skipping 1 bead, skipping 2 beads, and I'm coming through the third one, and there you go. I've added all of my little fringy loops. Now all that's left to do is to tie off my thread. So I like to kind of sew through a few beads. So I'm coming up the yellow one, going down the purple, just kind of reinforcing your thread path, and then we're going to do a knot or 2. So I'm coming up here. What I'm going to do is go through that thread path between the yellow and blue bead there. Pull it, but don't pull the loop all the way through. So I've got my little loop. I'm going through the loop, and then pulling it tight, and that's going to make a knot to tie off my beadwork there. And then I usually like to add a few knots, so I'm going to make a loop around, going through the beads a few times, And then we're going to do a knot again, where we're going through that thread bridge between two beads, pulling it to make a small loop, then into the loop, and into the loop again, pulling it tight to make that knot. And we're going to clip off the thread on this side. And then we need to tie in the thread up here as well and clip the tail off. So now we have this part of our earring. We need to add the dangles like in here. Okay, so first we're going to make the little drop here. So I have a head pin and I'm going to string on my crystal. And then I'm going to create just like a little bend in one side. Clip the wire off. I clipped it about 1/4 inch long for my loop. And we're going to grab some round nose pliers and make a loop in the wire, like so. And then I'm going to connect it to the loop on here. So I've opened my loop up, just kind of twisted the two pieces apart, slip it in there, and then close that loop back up. So there's my little crystal. Now we're going to add the flower. For that, we're going to use an eye pin, so it already has a loop on one end. We're just going to feed our flower on there. For this, we need one loop of our flower going one direction and one going the other way. So I'm going to bend this like this and clip the wire off. And go ahead and grab the wire at the end with my round nose and kind of round it in. Alrighty. So again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take my flat nose. I twisted the loop open enough to be able to slip that ring into there, close it back up, and now I need to attach it to my ear wire. So again, I'm going to take my ear wire, flat nose pliers, kind of bend it so that I'm twisting the loop open, hook that part in there, and close it up. There you go. Look how cute and festive these are. These are going to be great for Fiesta. If you guys are looking for a material kit, you can find them at our website, originalbeadsandgems.com. Otherwise, if you have the materials at home, you're all set. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.